Okay, so to teach solving equations to my students, I would start with prior knowledge. We would discuss the additive inverse, the multiplicative inverse, and also the identity property. So to start with making zeros, I would recall to the students that the additive inverse is the opposite of the number. So if we have the number 22, the opposite is negative 22, and if we add those together, we'll get 0. This is true because when we talk about the identity property, the identity for addition is 0. And anything plus 0 will be itself, and so that's why we make 0. Also with the multiplicative inverse, we are making 1. So the inverse is actually the reciprocal. So the multiplicative inverse is the reciprocal. So 2/3, our multiplicative inverse is 3/2. If we multiply those together, we get 6/6, which is 1. This is true because for the identity property, 1 is the identity for multiplication. Anything times 1 will give you itself. So this is what we would use today to do our solving equations. And so we would start with this problem here. And I tried my best to make a word problem for negative 3/4 plus 1/2 x is equal to negative 58. So Sarah already owes her mother $34. That's why it's at negative 34. She and her sister break a lamp and she has to pay for half of the replacement lamp. So she has her negative $34 and she's going to add half of the price of the lamp. And so that is going to equal, she now owes her mom $58. And since she owes it to her mom, that's why it's negative. And so how much does the replacement lamp cost? So what we want to do here is we want to get x by itself. And in order to do this, we first need to remove the negative 34. Well, we can make 0 by adding the additive inverse. And so what we're going to do is add 34. If I add negative 34 and positive 34, we will make 0. But if I do something to the left, because solving equations are all a balancing act, I know what I do to this side of the equation, I also have to do to this side of the equation. So because we added positive 34 on the left, we have to add positive 34 on the right. Once we do that, we're going to simplify this, and we know that negative 34 plus 34 is 0. We'll keep our 1/2 x. Then negative 58 plus 34 will give us negative 24. Let's move this back there so we can move this up. And so now we have 0 plus 1/2 x is equal to negative 24. Well, we recall from the identity property, anything plus 0 will be itself. So 0 plus 1/2 x is equivalent to 1/2 x. And so we can simplify this 0 plus 1/2 x is equal to negative 24 to have 1/2 x is equal to negative 24. So now we're looking here and we have 1/2 x is equal to negative 24. Well, we know that we want this x by itself. So in order to do this, we need to make 1. And in order to make 1, we have to multiply by the multiplicative inverse. Well, as we recalled from our prior knowledge, the multiplicative inverse is the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 1/2 is going to be 2/1. But, move this over a little bit, whatever we multiply the left by, we also have to multiply the right. So because I'm multiplying the left by 2/1, I also have to multiply the right by 2/1. So here we're going to have 2/1 times 1/2, and as we know, multiplicative inverse, anything times its reciprocal is going to make 1. And so here we now have 1x. Well, negative 24 times 2/1, we're going to get negative 24 times 2 will give us negative 48. Divided by 1 is just going to be negative 48. So now here we have 1x is equal to negative 48, but we know by the identity property, anything times 1 is itself, and so we can recall that x is equal to negative 48. So that means that her and her sister have to pay they have to pay $48, and so she will take that amount and multiply it by 1/2 to check her amount. So for us, what we can do here is we can check our answer. So we have this equation here, negative 3/4 plus 1/2 x is equal to negative 58. Well, let's take this negative 48 and plug it in for x. So now I have negative 3/4 plus 1/2 times negative 48 is equal to negative 58. Order of operations, we'll have to start with our multiplication. 1/2 times negative 48 is negative 24. So we know that we now have negative 34 plus negative 24, and we're checking to see if this equal to negative 58. Well, negative 34 plus negative 24 is negative 58. So here we have negative 58 is equal to negative 58, and so everything worked out, and we know x is equal to negative 48. So using our multiplicative inverses, which is multiplying by a reciprocal, using our additive inverses, which is by adding the opposite to make 0, and using our identity property of anything plus 0 is equal to itself, anything times 1 is equal to itself, we're able to solve an equation for x. And as we know, we can always plug that back in for our variable and solve and check and make sure everything works out.